Good evening and welcome to the Italian Impact Podcast. I am Stefano Mancini.
And my name is Claudio and again, welcome to Italian Impact Weekly. We are also doing a simulcast with my show, the Claudio Show, so we don't have to bother our very special guest two times. Now, to our very special guest. He is the former WBA lightweight boxing champion. He's in the Italian Hall of Fame, both here in Pittsburgh and in Chicago, the main one. He's in the World Boxing Hall of Fame, the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Wonderful husband, wonderful father, grandfather, and a great son. He owns a production company. He's a director. He's an actor. He owns a wine company, bourbon. He makes appearances, motivational speaker. And I just found out today he's doing a cigar signing for his new cigar product in a few weeks. And that is somebody that I admire and respect a ton. And I consider him a friend, and that's Ray Boom Boom Mancini. Ray, thank you so much for being on our show.
Claudio, I'm honored, and I really appreciate that introduction. I'm very flattered. Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Well, Ray, you know, the first time I met you was you had an appearance at a lady named Deborah out in Youngstown. I forgot her show.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do remember. Matter of fact, what's that?
Was that the first time we met?
That was the first time we met. Then I met you again with Tony Ferraro for your book signing in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
But and I'm not ashamed to admit, when I met you, I wanted to jam in everything that you meant to me, and I got emotional. And like I said, you have had so much impact in my life, and I've told you numerous times when we've been together. And even though you might not like my driving, I appreciate you and care for you a ton and admire you a ton. Okay, I went down a wrong one-way thing a couple weeks ago. Ray was calm about it, though. He said, "Claudio, I don't know about this." I said, "We're okay."
Well, I bet you you're going to figure it out.
Right? Hey, we're here. But Ray, you know, I want to. I mentioned all the businesses you're involved in, and again, I admire obviously your boxing career, Hall of Fame. But you know, you and I have been in a few business meetings together. I don't know if I've ever been in the company of someone who was so prepared for a business meeting as you were. These guys were some hitters, and they were asking you questions, Key Bank and some other people, and you were banging them out about the movie world. Tell us, how did you get to be so prepared like that?
Well, first of all, Claudio, anything you get involved with, you got to be prepared. You got to know the business, right? You got to learn the business. So that's the same thing. Whatever you're in, right? You know, being a fighter, you learn everything about fighting, right? I always tell people, I was a boxing historian long before I became a fighter. I've been reading, Ring magazine since I was 5 years old. Because my father, he always said he had the Ring magazines, and I'd read Ring magazines for the 30s and 40s. So I consider myself a boxing historian, and I know the fight. And then my father would tell me about these guys. I'd ask him about the fighters. So I'm fairly knowledgeable about the fighters of yesteryear, and of course up to present day. But whatever it is you get involved with, you got to have a passion for it. You got to have an interest, not just a passing interest. You got to have a passion for it. So, talking about the entertainment business, about the film, I got into film production out of necessity, basically. When I went to LA in 1985 after I retired, I was out there and I was having a good time. I was really just enjoying life. My career had ended, and I hadn't officially announced the retirement or anything yet, but I knew that was my last fight. And and then I was working. I was being represented by the William Morris Agency for commercial endorsements, for appearances, for commentary, and television and film appearances. So I'd go but then I'd go up and I'd audition, and I get some, and some I wouldn't. But I became very good friends with one of my dearest friends. I met him the first week I was there, was Mickey Rourke. Now, Mickey Rourke was in the mid-'80s, 1985. He was one of the hottest. The top scripts went to three actors: Robert De Niro, Jack Nicholson, and Mickey Rourke. He was the hottest thing on. And we just hit it off, and he was a big fight fan, and I loved his movies. He was a fan of my fights, so we really hit it off. And being around him, I said, finally one time I said to him, hey, man, I want to do what you do. I want to do the art. He said, Raymond, you got to train for it like you did for your fights. You became world champion because of how you trained. well, if you want to be, I said, look, nobody's going to take you serious right now because and you're coming off a boxing career. He said, if you want to be taken serious, you got to study it. You got to train for it. And I said, well, can you help me? And it's like the guy asked for help find a trainer. I said, can you help me find an acting coach? And he said, there's a guy everyone's talking about. Let me find out and get, see if I can get the information. And he did. And there was a gentleman named Howard Fine. Howard Fine won a won a wonderful acting coach in L.A. And I studied with Howard for several years. But the point I'm getting to is, whatever you do, see, at first, like I said, at first I was just having a good time. But when I realized I wanted to buckle down and be an actor, I don't say, it's like people say, you want to be a fighter, you got to go to the gym, you train with the top. You got to go to the gym and train with some of the best, trainers, or best trainer you can find. And it's got to be a trainer that specializes, that works for you. Because not everyone works for everybody, That's why you go into acting class, it's one guy and there's, 50 people, whatever. I had one-on-one training. I wanted all his energy. I wanted him to have all mine. So what I'm getting to, Claudio, is I try to approach everything is try to be the best that I can be. You got to give it all your energy. To give it you got to jump in, body, mind, and soul. You can't tap dance, but then you got to find the right trainer, the right teacher, and I studied for about 5-6 years, and he finally said, hey man, I taught you everything I could teach you. You could either keep coming to class or and go out there and work. I said, well, I'm going to go out there and work, And then one thing evolved, and then I was working, so I'd be on a set, and I'd say, well, I know that's the director. I know that's the line producer, cameraman. Who's that guy? They said, well, that's the producer. I said, well, what does he do? They said, well, he hires us. He's the one who finds the money. He owns the IP. The intellectual property. He develops the project. And he develops the script, develops the project. He hires us, and I said, he's the boss. They go, yeah, he's the boss. I said, well, I got to talk to him. And that's basically how I got into producing, because I knew nothing about producing, but I knew this: coming from the world I come from, where I controlled my own destiny. In the ring, you win, you lose, you lose. It's in my hands. In the entertainment business, I had very little control over anything, and I still don't. You control very little. All you can control is your work. But what ends up on screen is out of your hands. That's up to the director and the editor. So all these type of things, so you can only control what you can control. And so that's why I got into producing. But, and I knew nothing about producing, but I've learned through trial and error. I made every mistake you can make. But eventually I wound up producing for MGM. I produced film for MGM, and I produced for Warner Brothers. And now I'm in the mix. And I've done independent films, and so like I said, now I'm in the mix and dealing with different entities, Wall Street investment firms, and things like that. But again, it's trial and error. There's no method to the madness, really isn't. But I've learned along the way. I've sat with studio heads. I've talked to them and find out what kind of films they're looking for to make for their studio. I've sat with the heads of distribution side of the studios, see what type of films they need to sell for their studio. And then I sat with the heads of Wall Street venture capital fund, heads, venture capitals, who find out what kind of films they're looking for investment for their clients. So, I've done the gamut. I run the gamut, and finally I developed a business model, which I think is on par with anything that best fits anything out there. Not because I developed it, it's just because it's right on point. It's what's happening now. I'm on the phone on a daily basis with people in the business from all sides. I said, from production and distribution and financing, and you got to be on top of that. Because one thing about this, Claudio, one thing about the entertainment business, last week is just, may not be this week. This week may not be next month. It changes constantly, and you got to stay up on top of it. So. That's what I've tried to do, and it keeps me in the mix, and keeps me activated, and it keeps me passionate about what I do. I mean, I don't want to be doing anything that I'm not passionate about. Why would I want to waste time? We've found out a friend of mine. I'm on Claudio. One thing you learn about me, you know me. I go off on tangents. So you guys bear with me.
You're Italian. You're passionate. My mom used to say, "Speak from the heart up."
Bring it around.
Right.
Eventually, I'll bring it back around.
Right.
But one thing, what I'm saying is, a friend of mine did a documentary last year, and she told me that they did it about the human condition. The human condition. And she said to me, Raymond, the one thing we found out as human beings that we have such little of is time.
Yeah.
And time is a valuable commodity. And we have commodities as human beings, but the most valuable commodity we have is time and how we use it. And I thought, man, that's deep, because that's the truth. I've wasted so much time through the years, Claudia, and I'm sure you have wasted so much time joking around with stupid stuff that never, got me anywhere. And I said, man, my time is worth money. Time is worth money, figuratively and literally. And I'm not gonna waste any more time if I could, So I try to be selective with the projects I do, the people I associate with, and things I get involved with. It's just time's too precious, and I don't want to waste any more.
I think I have so many things to mention here, and I want Steve to get into, but I've not watched, I've studied your work, including your documentary, The Good Son. And we don't have to go into detail, but you said the way you said something one time, you said you have to move on, the way you said it, and that stuck with me. And with me, wasted time. I mean, I work incredibly hard, but I think I've wasted time on people who've disappointed me and being upset with that. How did you deal with people who've disappointed you?
Well, you just said it. People disappoint you. And I was one of these guys like, you're going to say no, now I'm going to make you say yeah. I'm going to keep coming back to you and say, look, here's the reason why you can't say no. Mm-hmm. Here's the reason why you can't. But one thing I learned about business, Claudio, first of all, I learned business happens when it happens. You can't rush business. And I've learned that. And I always thought I could change people's minds. I could win them over, whatever. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen when it happens. One thing about business, you ain't rushing business, And so that was a hard lesson for me, because I always thought, again, being in control, I could control my business aspects and business moves that I make, but you can't. And so what I was talking about is, when you're talking about moving on, is look, I again, things have happened to me in my career and in my life, and the one thing I've said, at the things that have been very sad things, I've mourned them. I've mourned it. I've given it the time to mourn. But when I've mourned it, when I've done that, then I move on, because you got to move. Look, people get stuck. They get stuck in life, whether it's over death of a family member, or death of a loved one, or whatever, or something with a job. They get fired from a job, and they get stuck in all. And they want to build a hole and just crawl in. I said, what are you gonna do? You're gonna throw dirt over yourself? Or what are you gonna do? So you mourn it, you grieve, whatever it takes. But then, in that certain moment, whatever the time is, for me, it's short. I leave my faith in the hands of God. I have a strong faith. I say my prayers. I rely on my faith in Jesus Christ, and I just move on. Then I move on, because you can't be stuck in that hole, because eventually you're just gonna get buried over, and that's it. It's over. So for me, I have to move on relatively quickly. But again, I don't just move on like it didn't happen. I grieve it, I mourn it, but I pick myself up and I move forward. One thing I was talking about, when you were talking about, one time I said, you ever see a crab walk? Crab walk's like 2 inches, 4 inches to the side.
Right.
2 inches, 4 inches to the side. So that's the crab walk. A lot of my career now is doing the crab walk. I make a little bit of movement, and I'm moving, and everything keeps, it's no movement. But I'm not backtracking. I just keep going to the side. Then I move a little more movement. And sometimes you do the crab walk. That's life. But until you get that opening, and then you rush through it. But I don't want to try to convince people anymore, or what I can and can't do. I've done it, especially the entertainment business. The entertainment business is just strictly, what can you do for me today, town? What can you do for me today, business. So, it doesn't matter, what I did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 days ago. It don't matter. So, that's what you have to be on top of. And you got to have, you got to have elephant skin. You really do, because these people, I don't want to say they're cold, yeah, but I mean, they're not very compassionate, and they're not very, they're not creative thinking. People think, oh, in entertainment you got to be a creative thinker. No, these people, they don't want to say no, because if they say yes, and it messes up, they lose a job. But instead of having the courage to say yes, yes, I want to do that, they rather say no and save their ass.
Wow.
So I got very little respect for people in the entertainment business who are in position of power. Very little respect, because they make no moves. They don't make any moves because they're afraid of failure. And I keep saying, well, afraid of failure, you fall, you fail, so boom, you get up and move on to the next one, and that next one's gonna be a winner. But that's not how they think. So, I've wasted a lot of time through the years trying to convince people, especially in the entertainment business, and people that are in position to make decisions, and you realize they don't. They just make no decisions. So, I guess that for them it works because they still got their jobs, but it doesn't. There's nothing. There's no legacy. There's no legacy there. These people, to me, they just collect the check. They're not creative. So, why would I want to be involved with that?
Right.
So now, that's why independent film. Independent film is really what's happening now. And we've talked about it since COVID. You talked about it. I told you, COVID killed a lot of businesses.
Oh, yeah.
We know that it killed a lot of businesses. But two businesses that actually helped was one being the mom and pop takeouts, right? That didn't depend on indoor dining. They didn't survive. They thrived. They killed it, right?
Right.
And the liquor business, we know that. They killed it. But the entertainment business, meaning independent film, because where the studios need weeks and weeks to rev up, the independent, we could do it. Where the studios need months and months to rev up, the independents can do it in weeks. So independent film exploded during COVID, where Netflix and Amazon and Hulu were secondary markets. Now the primary markets. They are studios. They're up there with the MGMs and Warner Brothers and Columbia and Sony and everybody else. Because so now, and it's helped independent film, because now instead of they made the business much more linear. It's much more linear. You make a product, you sell it. If you sell it to Netflix, say, you make it for $2.50, you sell it for $4. Boom, there you go. You made $1.50. You know what you made it for. There you go. But there's no back end. Now people go, does that matter? Well, yeah, it could, because if you think you have something special, if you think you got a film that could really catch at the box office, then you want to maybe hold out for a theatrical distribution deal, because you would share in back end. Remember American Pie?
Sure.
They made it for $2 million, made $200 million. So I know the guy who produced that, one of the producers, one of the writers, was a producer, and I used to see him at lunch every day. This guy, his hair was frazzled. He looked like he just woke up out of a body bag. His glasses were twisted. He made that movie. Now he's at the same restaurant. He's got his legs crossed. He's dressed. He's got nice, coiffed hair.
Oh, yeah.
His attire is nice, and he's sitting there with his coffee and peeking out, drinking a cappuccino. My point being is, all he did was he had that one shot, and he made it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So my point being is, you only need one. In the entertainment business, you don't need 10 people to believe in you. You don't need 100 people. You don't need 10 people. You don't need 5. You need one person. So that's the thing. And so the entertainment business is one business. We go from the outhouse to the White House real quick.
I use your quote all the time. I use that
the
quote.
right project, the right project.
Right.
Ray, let me ask you. This is Steve. I want to chime into something you touched on before. First of all, it was great meeting you at the Italian Sports Hall of Fame in Pittsburgh. And you know what? And let me tell you something. I was telling Claudio before the show, I said I didn't take a picture with Ray. I don't know, man. I'm going to say it on the air. I was a little starstruck. I've watched you for so many years.
I'm honored.
No, and I was like, I'll tell you something funny. We were talking about before. I said, I don't know if people like you, maybe you get tired of that, like coming up like, hey, can I get your autograph? Hey, can I get a picture? And you're like, man, I just want to eat my food, And the next time you're in Pittsburgh, now I won't be shy. I'm going to get a picture with you.
Thank you.
I'm putting that on Claudio to let me know when you're in
Let
town.
me say this real quick before you ask Ray your question. I know a lot of, in quotes, celebrities and names. This guy here is as genuine as it gets, and I don't care what anybody does for a living, how good they're. If they're a good person,
that's
then
right.
They got me.
And everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time.
Yeah.
But Ray, you were legitimate, I'm a pretty good judge of character, and that's why. And Claudia and I have been talking about trying to get you on the show, and I said we got to get you on the show. We got to get him on the show.
Well, thank you. I'm flattered.
No, I appreciate that. But I do want to go back to something you said, because you said you got in the entertainment business. Now, on a fun fact, I recently started to get in the entertainment business and did my first documentary last year, and I'm learning a lot. And I was to your point, I was very blessed because I don't want to say I got lucky. I found something. I jumped in both feet, because what you do is when you're going to go into film, it's one of these. I believe you can't do anything half-assed. It's like you're either going to do it.
Certainly
right.
Not filmmaking. Absolutely not.
So I jumped in. We got a nice international award-winning documentary, and I'm like, holy cow, I can't believe I did that. I'm going to jump into something a little spiritual, because you mentioned faith. And one of the things I struggled with is I said, I want to be successful. Like, you don't want to do something and not be successful at it. At the same time, you try and stay humble. And, we all going to believe this. One day the good Lord's going to call us home. God willing, he calls us home and doesn't send us away. And, you look at your, this desire for what I'll call worldly kind of fame and success. And I know in the film business, there's a lot of, well, we'll just say it kindly, shady characters. How did you how do you rectify that with your faith and try and be a good person? But yeah, let's be honest, you're in an industry that isn't renowned for necessarily being honest and moral people, and you're trying to be successful at it. So I'm just curious, how do you, do you ever think like that, and how do you rectify that?
Well, first of all, you just said I'm in a business where, as you are too, if you're in the entertainment business, where most people are agnostic. They're not believers of any kind, and so
believe in the dollar.
Friends of mine, that are, I said, oh man, you find out, and you go along, and they go, wow, that's kind of a kick in the groin. I thought this guy was, I didn't know, and then you find out that totally, they're non-believers of any kind, in faith of any sort, and the friends of mine, I love them. I don't change, but I just, okay, well, that's just the nature of the beast. And some of my acting heroes, acting people I love. You find out, oh, he has no faith. Oh, that's kind of a letdown for me. But I enjoy his work. So you know what I mean. I don't need anybody to be anything more than what they are, and that's being an actor. I don't expect that more. I enjoy their work. I don't need to be anything more for me. You know what I mean? That's the problem. I think a lot of people, when they meet their look, I've had that happen myself. Where I'll tell you a quick story. I met her when I was years ago in New York. I was at a restaurant, cutting up with my friends. We were having some laughs and joking and laughing. And a woman comes up to me. She says, she goes, boom, boom, I'm such a fan. I love watching you and this and that. I said, well, thank you. So now, she's with a couple of friends, pretty girl. I said, you want to sit down and join us? Yeah, she sits down, and we're cutting up, and we're telling stories, and we're laughing and cutting it up. And finally, and I'm sure there's some crude language being there. I don't think I did, but I'm pretty. When you have people, a couple of women, I kind of watch myself. But yeah, and to make a long story short, she after a couple of minutes, after a while, she said, she turned to me, she goes, "Can I tell you something?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "You know what?" She goes, "It's such a letdown." I said, "What?" She goes, "You're nothing." She goes, "You're not what I expected at all."
Wow.
I said, "I'm not." I said, "Well, what did you expect?" "Well, I thought you would be just something different." I said, "See, that's not your fault. That's mine. You know why? Because I let you in my inner circle. I should have left you on the outside."
Wow.
Because one thing the guy told me, once you let people in that inner circle, it's a totally different. Once you're on the outside looking in, you're that person they think you are. But once you let them in, no matter who you are, good, bad, or different, they find out, oh, he's just like me. He's just another regular guy. Because that's all I am, is a regular guy who happens to make good. And she said, and I said, "That's not your fault, that's mine. Because I let you in. and I let you in my inner circle, but basically it just took everything which you thought of me, it took it away because he's a normal guy, just a regular guy, and so I've learned that. I've learned since then to try to people. Certain I have friends, people, but there's certain people you keep at a distance, and whatever they think of you, but you can't let everyone in that inner circle because they don't understand you, they don't get you. So that's kind of that's happened before to me. And you find out like, man, that kind of hurt.
Well, good news. I still like you. You haven't let me down yet, Ray. So we're good.
I appreciate that.
No, never.
So far, so good. So far, so good. Thank you.
You know what, Ray? We're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from my sponsors on the Claudio Relsano Show, and that's Roscoe Hearing and Allergy Care Center. Call Dr. Greg Roscoe at 814-375-0455. Eric Jackson Lurie, criminal defense attorney with offices located in Pittsburgh and Fox Chapel. Call Eric at 412-963-9308. Friendship Perk and Brew, Nick Redondo, great guy, 300 South Pacific Avenue, Friendship, Pennsylvania. Give them a shot and go to perkandbrew.net. Pittsburgh Wealth Management, our newest sponsor. Call Mike Battellini, great guy, at 888-611-7964. And don't forget about my book, Lead from the Heart Up, Not the Neck Up, How to Create a Positive Winning Culture on the Field and in the Office. You can get that at my website at ClaudioRelsano.com. Thankfully, they're all sold out at Barnes & Noble, so that's good. So you can get it on my website. And a few shows that I do, Steel City Sports World, live every Wednesday. Go to sesportsworld.com with Luther Dupree Jr. and Smoking Jim Frazier. Sports Corner every Saturday, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on 1250 a.m., 92.5 FM, The Answer with Ralph Williams, Smoking Jim Frazier, Luther Dupree Jr., and myself. So Ray Mancini has had impact on me because I do a bunch of things like Ray.
Ciao, Chrissy. Your Italian got so much better. Brava.
Grazie. It's because I learned the best way possible.
How so?
Well, I learned that with apps, grammar books, and even YouTube videos, I could only get so far. I had to immerse myself. I noticed I did best when I was in Italy visiting family. That's where my level really soared.
And wow, did it work?
Thanks. I became much more confident, fast. That's why I created Footsteps Through Time. It's an Italian language experience. You don't just take Italian classes, you immerse yourself in a real Italian village. With lots of fun activities and excursions, it's life-changing.
I see. So, no more boring grammar, impersonal apps, just real conversations, real culture, and delicious food, of course.
Exactly. I'm so excited about this. Learn Italian by actually becoming part of the local community for a week and living it. So if you've been dreaming of Italy and the language, check out Footsteps Through Time in Italy.com. Book now and join the experience.
Andiamo!
Thanks to Greater Pittsburgh Travel. For any of your travel needs, let Tom and the team at Greater Pittsburgh Travel know, and they'll take care of you. For more information, call 412-331-2244 or visit their website at www.greaterpittsburghtravel.com. Did your parents or grandparents ever talk about the Vietnam War? The Hardest Year, a love story and letters during the Vietnam War, is an accurate portrayal of what life was like during the 1960s, a time of the draft, equal rights, and the anti-war movement. Follow newlyweds through their letters as they navigate 1 year of the war an ocean apart. The Hardest Year by Carol and William Wagner is available now wherever books are sold. And we want to thank the Calabria Club of Pittsburgh. If you're interested in learning more, you can find their contact information on Facebook at Calabria Club of Pittsburgh. Again, thanks Domenica and the team at the Calabria Club of Pittsburgh for your support. And we want to thank La Scuola d'Italia Galileo Galilei, the only nonprofit school in Pittsburgh endorsed by the Italian Consulate. If you're interested in learning Italian or have your children being immersed in the Italian culture and language, be sure to give them a call at 412-404-7070. And that's La Scuola d'Italia Galileo Galilei. We'd also like to thank Chris Gonzalez from the Knights of Columbus. If you have any questions about joining the Knights of Columbus, reach out to Chris Gonzalez at 412-605-9074.
Hey, Claudio.
Yes, sir.
Eventually, if you throw enough stuff against the wall, something's going to stick.
Something's
right?
going to stick. Something's going to stick. You never know. You never know.
But you will hear to say, you got to just keep throwing stuff against the wall, see what sticks. And then another guy told me, he said, yeah. He says, but man, you could have a lot of holes in that wall, and ain't nothing going to, and I laughed because, it's always, we always think, well, you just throw it out there. But then you realize, if you throw enough stuff out there, eventually you're not going to be good, or you're not going to be able to give time and effort the things that you should be giving it to. You know what I mean?
Right.
'Cause that's what I used to be like. I used to try to be out there doing. I was trying to do everything I could do, lending my name to anything I could do, and saying yes to anything I could do. And then eventually you go like, no, I got to reel that stuff in because there ain't nothing. I wasn't successful at anything because I was so spread out, and I wasn't giving my time and energy enough to any one particular thing. So, I kind of.
Now, Ray, that's a good. I want to ask you about that because you know what, Claudio and I have had this conversation, and he uses the "you can always do more," and I go, well, I don't know, but I'm kind of like in the middle. On one hand, I want to put my hand in a lot of pots. But I feel like, to your point, if I do that, I'm too thin and there's no quality. Yeah. At the other hand, you don't.
So you guys are insulting me, saying
no.
Right.
But at the other hand, you don't know what's going to work.
Right.
So you try things. So go ahead, Ray.
Right. No, exactly. But here's the thing. You just said it. If you got your hands in too many things, you just said you don't give enough time and effort to one thing because you're moving on. And some things take time. Sometimes you need to, marinate a little bit before they happen. So, but you got to try different things. There's no dispute. But finish one thing, then move on. If it doesn't, and I've learned that. That's what I've done. I watch it. Okay, well, that ain't happening. So move on from that.
Right.
If somehow that should resurrect down the road, great. But I was used to bounce on. I was doing too many. I was bouncing around all over the joint, and I wasn't putting any effort or time, the proper time, I should say. I thought it was effort, but it was half-assed effort, obviously, into my different projects. But you learn when nothing's happening. You go, man, then you got to go take a look and go, well, who's at fault? It's me. It's my company. It's my stuff. And what ain't I doing? And then you realize, well, I'm not giving it time or an effort. I'm not allowing it to take shape or form because I'm moving on too fast. And but look, one thing I learned is what they like to tell you in acting. When you're in the scene, right, and you don't know, and you're in the scene, they say, when in doubt, De Niro always talks about this. Do nothing. Do nothing, because the people around you will move, and that's life. In life, when we're not sure what we want, we stand there and we do nothing, right? That's acting. But so when we get into it, it's much like business. If you're not sure, just do nothing. And and then you'll see if the passion, if it's still there, or if the urgency to get things done is there or not, and you'll see if it moves you or not.
Right.
So that's kind of how what I do now. I'm involved with something about 3 or 4 different things, and I have a passion for all of them. I enjoy all of them. But if I didn't, then I just move on from it. But I've tried to give it enough time to let it marinate and see if it's going to come to fruition. Some things are great ideas. It's great idea. Go, how come that never worked? Well, life, man, life. Time. One thing I've learned: timing is everything as far as life and love.
Yep. Everything.
So we just missed that timing. It was a great idea, but by the time we got around to it, it was. It was already passed, or whatever reason, right? It's like a woman. You meet a woman, and then you meet a woman down the road. You go, oh, we knew each other back in the day, but now we reconnected. Or you meet a woman, or you have an eye for a woman, and all of a sudden, timing ain't right. So it's kind of like life. It's kind of business. It's all of that. It's all of it. So timing's right, but if you're doing your diligence and doing what you're supposed to, you're paying your dues and putting in the time. Something's going to happen at the right time. It's got to happen.
Right.
Just,
it
will.
I agree. Now, with me, Ray, I'm finishing up my 42nd year in baseball, 24th year in pro baseball, and the rest in college. But Greg Norman once said that he wanted to prepare for his life when he was no longer #1 golfer in the world. I'm preparing for my life when one of these days baseball isn't going to want me, or I may not want it. So I'm trying to prepare for that. Did you ever say to yourself, when did you say to yourself, hey, I'm going to start preparing for my life when I'm no longer champion of the world?
No, Claudio, I didn't. See, that's the thing. I didn't. People say, well, how'd you get into it? It just happened. I was being represented by the William Morris from 1983 on when I was fighting for commercial endorsements and commentary and things like that. So when I retired, then I was being offered at the time. I was being offered like acting roles or cameos in different TV shows and films, and I was never able to take advantage of it because I was always in training camp. So when I retired, so what are you gonna do? I said, I told my agent, I want to do the entertainment. I want to give it a shot. But really, she said, well, you got to be here where the action is. You got to move out to LA. I said, perfect. I moved to New York when I heard of Fightgate, so that's when I moved to LA. But you got to give yourself a legitimate chance. Like I tell people, I tell people all the time, you know, where do you want to be? You know, I'll meet a friend of mine and say, this is my daughter. She's going to acting class, or she's going to acting school. I go, well, you know, where are you going? I'll take it at the college. Oh, okay. Where are you going to go after that? Where are you going to go to school after that? Oh, I don't know. I just, you know, well, how's your acting career? How's that going to happen? Well, I'll try to do some stage work, and you know, and hopefully I'll get discovered. I said, it don't work that way. It don't work that way. You got to go where the action is. The entertainment business is in New York and LA. 80%, film and TV are LA. A lot of TV work in New York. Stage work is New York. Stage work. But here's what I tell people. It's no dispute that New York actors have higher credibility, respectability, and you know, higher ability because they are trained actors from the stage. You know, so people go, I'm going to be a star. They go to LA, and you know, they've got a pretty face, and they got, you know, and a cute smile. They can get on a TV show, and that ain't hard. But to have any substance, any, you know, longevity, man, you got to train, man. You got to go to acting class. You got to go to a legitimate, respected acting school. And that's, you know, and that's what I tell people, man. You got to do it. So the idea of being discovered, like you know, at the ice cream shop, like years ago, I forgot the great actress that was, you know, discovered. I'm not saying it can't happen because it has happened, but not likely to happen. You know, you'd be investing a lot more in yourself if you went to class and you had a legitimate and did your diligence and find acting school and going there and study and train. But knowing that, you know, it's a difficult business. You know, there's a lot of people doing it, but if you stick with it, and if you have the tenacity, something will break for you. Something will happen, and that's it. Too many people give up too soon. They give it I'm going to give it a couple of years. And how many times you hear about actors like Brad Pitt? He was down to his last couple of bucks. He said, if I don't get this role, I'm quitting. And he got the role. Or you hear about The Rock talking about he had $7 in his pocket. And then, you know, things started happening for him. I mean, and that's why he calls his company $7 Productions. I mean,
I didn't know that.
You hear these stories all the time, but they're true. But, you know, Brad Pitt wasn't, you know, he wasn't a wrestler. He was just a, you know, kid who came out, went to acting school. He was down to his last, literally, he said, less than $7 in the bank. He said, if I don't get this, that's it. I said, I'm going home. I got no chance.
Stallone, the same way.
Yeah.
Stallone,
a lot of those guys were broke. Wow.
You know, so you hear these stories all the time. Mm-hmm. But the tenacity, man, they stuck it out. They stuck with it. You know, they faced I would say death, not death, physical death, but death of their career, death of their dreams. They faced the death of what they had hoped. Like I said, their dreams and goals, and they boom, they stood up to it and made it happen.
Now, Ray, how do you think someone would? No, I'm curious because you know there is a time I think when you say, look, this just isn't right for me, and you've had a lot of ventures, and some of them probably didn't work out, and some did. No, how does a person know when they say this isn't going to work?
I'm not sure I'm the guy because I've been told I'm the hopeless optimist. I'm the guy who waits to the end when the you know there's the wells run dry, because I believe until the very end I can make it happen. You know, so it's not. Believe me, it ain't been the smartest thing. Like I tell Claudio, I said I'm like a 300 hitter. I've hit 3 out of 10. I've missed 7 out of 10. I've been, but 3 I've hit been pretty good.
And
but
baseball,
3 out of 10 is the Hall of Fame career, right? They say 3 out of 10 is the Hall of Fame career. So 3 out of 10 has been pretty good. But I'm that guy who waits to go takes it to the very end, because you never know. I always thought one thing I've learned: you walk it, and a guy told me that a long time ago. Producer says you walk every project down the road till it becomes a dead end. He says you walk it down every path you find until it becomes dead end. And if they're all dead ends, that's it. He said, but eventually You keep walking them down the road, you're going to find one that's going to open up for you.
You think that includes? Does that include careers though? I mean, and I'll give you an example. You know, let's say boxing or acting. Similar guys go to the ring or go to the gym. They train hard. They might have the passion, just might not have the tools. At some point, someone says, "Listen, you're just go ahead."
Before you said it, no, I apologize.
No, because you know where I'm going with the question.
I said this repeatedly. My father used to say this to me. He said, Raymond, and I've seen it when I was in the gym. He said, Raymond, I see some of the best fighters in the world starving in the gyms. Well, I think this guy should be a world champion. They're starving. You know why? Because he said in the boxing game you have to have breaks and connections.
Yeah.
You got to get the breaks, but you got to have the connections. If you don't have the connections, you ain't going nowhere. And if you can't get your breaks, well, you're going to be stuck in the gym.
So there's some luck to it, I guess. Then.
Oh, well, you know what? Yes, but you know what luck is? Luck is the residue of design. Meaning we create our own luck. I'm a firm believer. We can by doing the job, by doing the grind. You go to school, you're doing the grind, boom, job opens up, boom, there it is. That's luck. Say, oh, it's luck. Yeah, luck is the residue of design. Where preparation meets opportunity, that's luck, and that's success. When people say, oh, it's luck, yeah, because he pays his dues. He deserves a shot.
Yeah.
So I mean, but that's what but you put yourself in that position.
Right.
So,
well, if the opportunity's there and you're not ready for it, you're not going to make it. You're absolutely right.
Exactly. You got to do a shot.
But you may never get that shot, by the way. I mean, that's a fortunate reality.
Why? He's lucky. It drives me nuts when I hear that.
Yeah.
Especially when they talk about actors or athletes. Oh, my God, he's lucky. Lucky. He put himself in a position. He did everything he had to do to put himself in that position.
Ray, one time Jim Valvano, he said that they were saying years ago that he was burst on the scene. He said, "Yeah, it took me 25 years to burst on the scene."
Right, of course.
Yeah.
That's so said in entertainment. They say, "Yeah, he's an overnight success."
Overnight sensation, right? That's what I meant. Yeah.
He's overnight success after 15 years. Yeah.
Now, Joe.
But that's the truth.
Yeah.
That's the true saying.
Yeah.
People, how many actors you never heard of? Where's this guy? Look at guys like Gene Hackman, Robert Duvall. Mm-hmm. These guys were in the mid-30s. Ed O'Neill was in his early 30s. He didn't start acting until his early 30s. He was a teacher. And then he said, I'm going to go out there. And he was working at the local theater. He said, I'm going to go to New York, give it a shot. So Eddie was in his mid-30s before he got the opportunity. So that's what I'm saying, though. But he had the right people behind him. He hooked up with the right agent and a right manager. The right manager, I should say, because he's had the same manager forever.
Sure.
But what I'm saying, that's what it takes, and they were able to move him along. If he didn't get the right agent or right manager, he ain't going nowhere, and that's the problem. So whether it's again boxing, whether it's acting, look how many players coming out of from coming to baseball that they're getting drafted or football, they don't get the right agent. I mean, I was just at a big event, event not long ago with an football agent. And I'm like, I said, what about I'm waiting to get paid. He goes, I go, well, get my money. You got me the gig. And he's over there, oh, well, yeah, I go, are you kidding me? I said, you got me the gig. You're the agent. Get me my money.
Yeah.
They sat there, and I thought to myself, oh, my God, how's this guy going to be, how could he go in against the head of a football team, go in and sit down and negotiate for his client? How could he do that? This guy, is milquetoast.
Well, that goes back to that thick skin you talk about. You got to be red, you got to be tough, and you got to be thick-skinned, and you got to be able to take it.
Be an agent.
Right.
You got to expect no. That's what actors you hear no over and over and over until you don't, and you have to have elephant skin. You're gonna hear no. But as long as you know, that's what my son's an actor. My son's I've gone through this whole thing. My son's been acting now for 12 years. He's done some plays. He's been off Broadway plays. He's been up for awards on stage. He's been in a couple of independent films. But he's not where he wants to be. Not where he's gonna be. And I told him, you're gonna make it. You're gonna hit. Why? Because you paid the dues. You've done it the right way. You've done everything you're supposed to do. You've trained. You've gone to master classes, and you've done theater, and you're still studying.
Ray, define make it. Let me ask you that though. Define make it, because I mean, is making it a destination or is it just a journey? Because I always wondered that.
I think it's both. But for me, it's all about the journey. We all know the destination. Eventually, we know the destination. Eventually, you get
6
to
feet
vacation
under.
and you go, right, well, that's exactly it. I tell people, life's about the journey. It ain't about the destination. We know the destination. It's about the journey. It's all about the journey. So even with an actor or an athlete, it's about the journey. Because once you get there, then you go, oh, okay, now what?
Right.
I mean, I don't mean that. I mean,
No,
people
that's
tell me
right.
once you win the title. Once you won the title, they go. I said, they said, what happened once you won the title? What did you think?
Well, I was going to ask you that. What was your next day? Like, now what?
Well, I mean, it was a euphoric experience.
Well, right. Oh, the day you won, but I mean, at some point it wears off, and you go, okay, now what?
Of course, exactly. Now, what you realize is, as a fighter, now I'm the hunted. Before I was the hunter.
That's right.
See, that's a different vibe there, man. When you know before I'm on the clock, I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do. Now I'm the hunter. Everybody's shooting for me. Everybody around the world shooting for me. So I gotta be on point. I can't, even though you want to relax and have life, but you gotta be on. You gotta conduct yourself a certain way. You got to take care of your body and your mind a certain way, and it's just.
Ray, let me ask you: Did you have a say in that? I'm curious. When to your point, you're on top now. You're the hunted.
Yeah.
Now you got a manager. He set up. Did he say, "Do you want to fight this guy or that guy?" Or was it like, nope, this guy's next, and he's coming after you?
Well, first of all, it's fighters. You will fight anybody. That's fighters. The managers say, well, you can't. That's the manager's job to say.
Okay.
You're not going to fight every guy. Says, I tell the manager, line him up. I want it. And I did. And he'd say, Ray, you can't fight. And he told me, he said, you can't fight everybody who says they want to fight you.
Yeah.
It's physically not possible.
You'd be fighting every other weekend.
He said, my job is to get you the biggest fight for the most money and the least amount of risk. That's my job. And that's anybody manager's job. So, but the fighters will fight anybody. I love when people say, this fighter, he ducked this guy. Fighters don't duck nobody. They'll fight anybody. It's the team. But to answer your question, do I have to say so? Yes. But when you're fighting, when I won the title, I had to fight the number one contender. That was a mandatory defense. So I have no say so in that. I got to fight him. And then you have mandatory defense every 6 months, but then you can have a fight, what they call a optional defense in between, where you can pick the opponent, anybody in the top 10 that you wanted. So, or that's being offered to you. So when guys would be offered to me, my manager Dave Wolf would say, Ray, he says, we got an offer for this guy. He says, I'm going to send you some film of him. Tell him what your thoughts are. And basically it would be the same thing I said every time. He sent me, and I go, okay. He's what I told Dave, make the fight. I said, it's gonna be a tough one. It's gonna be a tough fight, but make it. Let's do it. Because I couldn't have an easy fight. My style wouldn't allow it. You understand? It didn't matter. And but he'd say, we're getting offered to fight this guy, the champion of South America. Okay, we're getting to fight the guy, the champion of the Pan Pacific. Okay, but see, that's what I wanted. To be a world champion, you want to fight the guys from around the world. You want to fight. You want to travel. And you don't want to be just fighting in Las Vegas, fighting guys. That's not world champion. That's why too many guys did that. They didn't go. They didn't travel anywhere because they didn't want to feel out of their comfort zone. They stayed in Las Vegas or wherever. So, but a true champion travels all over the world. All over the world.
That's right.
So and the great fighters do, because you want to showcase your talents around the world to people. And if you're going to beat the guy in their backyard, that's what a true champion does.
All right.
So,
Ray, I'm going to ask you a question. It's going to be a tough one.
Sure.
I got to ask you. You can admit it now. Your career's over. Was there anyone that you were a little, I don't say hesitant, but a little, nobody scared you?
No. You know what? It's funny you said that, because I've heard people say, he didn't want to fight. So I laughed. I go, I was 20 years old. I got offered Alexis Arguello, and I said, absolutely.
Ooh.
Alexis was already a three-division champion, 3 different divisions. He was one of the greatest fighters of all time.
I remember him.
Top 15 greatest fighters of all time. One of my heroes growing up. I love to watch Alexis. When they said, when I beat Jose Luis Ramirez, it was my 20th fight. And I won that fight. They said, I beat the number 6 contender, then I beat the number 3 contender in the world, and nobody thought I'd beat him. As a matter of fact, they didn't even have no bets in Las Vegas because I was such an underdog. And they had just fought Alexis previous to that in a non-title fight in Florida, dropped Arguello twice. By all counts, should have got the decision, lost a split decision. But they had him fight me. They said, well, you got to fight somebody else. And so they tournament with me against me. And after that, they said, like I said, they wouldn't even put up on the board in Vegas because I was such an underdog. But I beat him. I shut him out in 12 rounds. So now they thought, well, okay, the title fight is offered to you to fight Alex Arguello. I was 20-0. I was 20 years old. Arguello had over 70 fights. One of the greatest fighters is 29 years old, won 3 division champions. What do you say? No, I'm not ready for that yet. No, you say because to be the best, you want to fight the best and beat the best.
That's right.
That's what a fighter does, champion does. You fight the best to be the best. You got to beat the best. So I always laugh when people said, was there anybody you? I said, let me tell you something. And nobody after that. I said nobody was going to be another Alexis Arguello I was ever going to face again. So that's your question. No, that's why I've heard people say, oh, "You ducked me." I start laughing. I go, "Hey, my friend, my friend, you were not Alexis Arguello. You were nowhere near Alexis Arguello. So relax." Yeah, because everyone said I ducked them because I was the one. At that time, I was the money guy, meaning fighting me, making more money. And you can't fight it, so you fight the best fight. As my manager said, best fight for the biggest money, right? So that's why everyone said he ducked me. Stuff. You can't. I just laugh. You gotta laugh now because I understand it now. But at the time, it's just the absurdity of it all. As I fought Arguello when I was 20 years old. Why would I worry about anybody else after that?
That's a good point because even I remember him, and he was. Oh yeah.
Ray,
one of the top 15 fighters of all time.
No doubt.
One of the top 15 fighters of all time.
Absolutely.
Couple things.
Arguello was one of the greatest fighters of all time. Top 15 fighters of all time.
And you did well that fight. You really did great.
I was winning after 12 rounds.
Yeah.
That's why the true championship distance is 15.
That's right.
If it's 12 rounds, I'm the world champion.
Yeah.
I beat him. But it was the two chips at
timing,
15.
Right? Timing, like
There
you
you
said.
go.
Yeah, 15 rounds.
Yeah.
15 rounds, man. And I still say it should be 15 rounds. That's a TV decision. No other decision. It's a TV decision.
Oh, wait. I want to go on that one. You think TV shortened the fights? I thought it was more like
I know they did. I don't.
I thought that was like they were afraid these guys beating the hell out of each other for 15 rounds.
Let me give you a statistic. Let me tell you something. First off, talk to the network guys. I were friends of mine. That was the TV decision because they have a chance to do more commercials, more. It's more money wise for the network. You have 3 rounds where you can do more commercials. Plus you can have an opening, an ending, and an interview. Because usually, if it went 15 rounds, you have to get the start at 5 to go 15 rounds. Not all of them did. Most of them didn't. But you have to get to 6 o'clock hour. You're already into the 6 o'clock hour, so they couldn't. A lot of them they couldn't even do an interview afterward. They give it the decision. Okay, thank you and good night.
Yeah.
But I said, first of all, they try to the organization say, it's for health reasons. The last 3 rounds, it takes out of you, you're depleted and this and that. Here's a statistic. This is fact. From 1900 to 1982, when I had my fight against Kim, there's been more fatalities from 1982 to present day than the first 82 years of the 1900s. More fatalities now in the 12-round era than there ever was before.
Wow.
That's fact. So why is that? Why is that? Is it because they shouldn't? No, because the fighters are not that well trained, because their trainers aren't as well good, and because everyone thinks they can, if any 10-round fighter go 12. Yeah, any 10-round fighter. Very few can do it, but very few go 15, which is why it's a true championship distance. That's why. So when they try to say, they shortened the round, they shortened the round for TV, not for anything else. It was a TV decision, not for health, they try to come out, try to make it a health thing. It's a TV decision. Let me tell you, TV networks are promoters. Believe that.
Right.
They told Bob Arum, Tom King, or any other promoter, they say, we're not showing another world title fight. We're not going to show another world title fight. That's we're back to 15 rounds. And weigh-ins the morning of, we'd be back to 15 rounds and the weigh-ins the morning of. TV dictates everything, and everyone knows that.
Ray, a couple things before we go into a rapid-fire questions for you. To go back to a few of your comments before, it took me 137 emails and phone calls and letters before I got my first pro job. I just kept at it until finally somebody got tired of hearing from me and said, yeah, we'll hire you, thank God. But Joe Namath once said during practice in the LA, when he was with the LA Rams in '77, I don't belong here anymore. Did you ever have that in your boxing career? I don't belong here anymore.
No, I didn't belong there. I just lost the because after the Kim fight, I had no love for it anymore. Everyone knows I fought for love. I had such a love for the sport, for my career. But after the Kim fight, the love was all gone. It just became business to me then.
Okay.
So I was looking for the door. I was there looking for the door. So I was just waiting for my business manager to say, okay, we got enough money that you can live on for the rest of your life. And I said, okay. And that's what that was. Because after that fight, it became a business. So that's why.
Well, I meant more of the training,
when you say
the training part of it and all that.
I'm sorry, no. I love training.
Wow.
It just became, once it became, look, Claudio, it doesn't matter training. Once it becomes a business, it all becomes a grind. It just all becomes, it's a grind. You're doing it because you got to do it, not because you love to do it.
Okay.
That's why I always loved being training. I always loved training camp. I loved, pushing myself to the limit. I love doing that. Physically, mentally, emotionally, it was. I love training camp because you take yourself to another place.
Okay.
And but when you lose a love for it, then it's like, and then it becomes a grind, man. But I got to do it, so it's okay. The love's gone, and look, I tell people, I was married to my career for so long, but like in any marriage, once the love's gone, you got to walk. So what?
Yeah, well said. Mario Andretti one time was asked his biggest fear, and right away he said poverty. What is Ray Mancini's biggest fear?
I think complacency.
Wow, okay.
I think that's the biggest thing, and I've found myself doing more and more of that through the years, and it bothers me. So I think I don't want to be complacent.
Okay.
I'm happy. But I don't want to be complacent because complacency is certainly the end of any what's the word? What did they say? Complacency is the end of any creativity. That's it. Complacency is the end of any creativity.
Got it.
So I don't want to be that guy.
Pet peeve in business, pet peeve in life.
Pet peeves in business is that you got to wait on too many other people. And you can't pull the trigger. I'd rather just a hard yes, a hard no, as opposed to a soft yes. Mm-hmm. She ain't gonna hurt my feelings. I tell people that I'm a big boy. I don't get my feelings hurt, and I don't get offended. It's I don't get offended. Probably times I should, I don't, but I don't. So I just rather a hard no than a soft yes as far as business. Pet peeves in life. I think that just people lack of people. My best pet peeve is people that they have no consideration. I think there's no consideration for and I find myself I put myself there at times. Patience. That when you're in traffic, people aren't patient. When we're in store, the grocery store line, we're not patient. I think patience for people. We have very short fuse for each other. As brothers and sisters on this earth, very short fuses, and I think the disrespect shown is my pet peeve. Shown to each other, especially the elderly, but I think just the disrespect. It's just common courtesy, like open the door for a woman,
sure.
Or if I'm in line, some woman's by herself, you move her in front of me, stuff like that. I think it's just people who don't do that, who think they got to be the first flyer, and. Have no consideration for others. I think that's my biggest pet peeve.
Two final things: a day in the life of Ray Mancini. What do you do, and what's next for Ray Mancini?
It's not, it depends. For instance, like today, every day I get up, have breakfast, have my double espresso, watch a little Sports Center, watch a little news, and then I go work out, and then my day starts. Usually it's on the phone. It's just on the phone, dialing for dollars. I'm in there today, but dialing for dollars. That's it. And then or people I've got get in touch with me about doing appearances and stuff. So, get that stuff set up, and flights and stuff like that. So, like I said, it's not an exciting. But then when I'm busy, though, boom, I'm up, getting to the airport, setting my schedule up. Once I get there, it just, my assistant sets everything up for me. I like being active. I like being, and people said you like being on the road. I like being on the road because that means I'm busy. I don't like the road life, so to speak. Do you understand what I mean?
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
Bouncing around. That can get tiresome and get old, but it means I'm busy. That I enjoy. This month's going to be a busy month. In fact, this coming month is going to be a very busy month. I'm going to be in Montreal. I'm going to be in England. I'm going to be in New York. I'm going to be in Boston. So I got things in the hopper. You know what I mean?
Good.
But then, this month, like the month August passed, it was pretty dry. So that's the nature of the beast, though, right? So sometimes you got to try to create opportunities for yourself. But mainly a day in the life of Ray Mancini is not very exciting anymore.
Well, I don't know
Maybe
about
one
that.
time, not anymore.
Joan Rivers once said she showed her calendar and she said, this is a great month where it was busy. Then the next month it wasn't as filled up. And then her manager one time said, if you want to get struck by lightning, you have to stand in the rain. So you're still out there and people still are attracted to you. Obviously but now what's next for Ray Mancini? What are your goals next?
Well, I got a couple of film projects. We're in the hopper. We're real close, very close to getting done. That's next. Make sure they come to fruition, make them happen. And my bourbon company that we have a two-time world double gold at the World Spirit Competition. Got to expand that. Got to get out that side of Ohio. We're trying to get in Pennsylvania, which would be a real coup for us to get in Pennsylvania. And my lifestyle company, the bourbon and cigars. I have a lifestyle company. I enjoyed that. And then we're in the middle of putting together a boxing series for one of the streamers. Me and my partners that will do a monthly show once a month, and we're talking to 3 different casinos now to get one each, one a quarter for each one of them. And then, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I got things going, but it's just, you always trudge it up the hill, man, and try to make things happen. It would be lovely to have one time somebody call and say, "Hey, we love your idea. Let's just do it." That'd be wonderful, wouldn't it?
Oh, good stuff. Ray, listen, I want to thank you again, man. We talked a long time, and I really appreciate it. I wasn't sure I know you're busy, so anytime we can get you on your schedule, we're appreciative. We appreciate you staying on.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it very much.
Ray, if you're all right, I'm going to actually follow up with you because you know what? I want some of your opinion because, the one thing you said, and this means a lot to me, and I know Claudio kind of appreciates this, is someone like you who's, for lack of a better term, you've been to the top of the mountain. And the most important thing, though, and I think where a lot of people kind of fail, is that's why I kind of asked you, it's not a destination, it's a journey. In success, we can't just say, Ray Mancini was a boxer. Okay, got it. But Ray Mancini is a bunch of other things. And it's that drive to continue doing stuff, and whatever it is I do, I want to be successful. So anytime I can, pick your brain, I would be honored.
My pleasure.
So I thank you very much. With that being said, though, Claudio, take us away.
Ray, hopefully I'll see you in Chicago for the Hall of Fame banquet. I think it's in October this year, I think. But if I say too much, I'm going to get emotional, and I don't want to do that right now. But I appreciate you more than you know.
I have nothing but love for you.
And I have nothing but love for you, and I mean that with all my heart.
I appreciate that.
One thing that I regret is that my mom and dad couldn't have met you because they would have been honored as well. And like I said, you've meant so much to me, and I don't just read your stuff. I don't just listen to your interviews. I should say I don't just hear them. I listen to them. The way you say them, the way you conduct yourself. I watch you, and I appreciate you, and you have a lovely wife and a lovely family, and I'm just so happy for you, and I know you're going to do more. And again, thank you for the impact you've had in my life.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. Thank you, Claudio. I
All
appreciate
right.
it, brother.
Well, thank you for your time, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, take care.
See you in Chicago. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
All right, folks.
Wow,
what
that's
a
good.
wonderful interview. What a great guy.
he
man.
is.
Great
He
guy.
is.
He's still there. God darn it, you're not supposed to hear me saying what a great guy you are.
Thank you.
No, all right,
Thank you. I
Ray.
appreciate it.
Thanks again. Hey, I want to thank our listeners and folks. Tune in next time. And Ray, God bless you, man. And I can't wait to meet you again.
Same here. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, everyone, we hope you enjoyed the interview as much as we did. Again, you can hear this on Italian Impact Weekly and on ClaudioRelsano.com. And that's about it. Ray's the best. And as always, I got to thank my mom and dad for everything. So appreciate you listening. And hopefully you'll be hearing me on this show more, if Steve allows it.
Permission granted, sir.
Okay.
All right, folks. Thanks again, folks. We'll see you next time.